Hello, 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 hello. This is Dr. Chara Williford, the founder and CEO of Be Your Best Yet Coaching and Consulting. And I am Dr. Chara, your leadership coach and consultant. All right, so let's hop to it. So today, new principles, I have a question for you. Does your calendar reflect your priorities? And so, when is the perfect time to recalibrate your calendar? The answer is anytime. So, what I want us to talk about today is quickly discussing calendarizing, which is one of my favorite C's. And you all know I have my essential C's, just kind of a play off of my name, but really C's that are essential for your success as a thriving principal. So, here, for instance, and I hope this is nice and clear for you. So, here for our sample calendar. And this particular resource is from a colleague of mine, Daniel Bauer. And so, this is from Better Leaders, Better Schools. So, this is a great resource for you to pull. And so, again, principles there, and I'll show you another one on another day from Leverage Leadership as well, about how to ensure that you are calendarizing and chunking your day with your priorities. So, for example, if you see here, this principal has an entire day from 8 to 5 p.m. So, I want you, number one, I want you to think about what are your work hours. And so, for example, I don't want you to say 6 a.m. to midnight, because that's number one, that's not sustainable. But really, from the time you walk in the building until the time you leave out of the building, all of that time in a perfect world should be scheduled. And because your calendar, believe it or not, it gets away from us sometimes, but that you really, principals, are in control of your calendar. So, how do you do that? Number one, I want you to think about your priorities. I'll give you a second to think about your big rocks, as I like to say. So, my big rocks, as you're thinking, when I was in your seat as a principal, and especially as a new principal, I thought about the charge that I was given from the district, because I believe that we are all purposefully chosen to lead, and we're sent to our schools for a reason. So, I might have had on my docket, or my priorities were students, of course, student culture, being visible, being in the hallways. So I scheduled myself, I put in chunks in my calendar of when I would be in the halls, when I would be in the cafeteria, because I wanted that time to be protected. All right, collaborative planning, or collaborative team meetings, whatever you call it at your school, PLCs. Put those as chunks on your calendar. Classroom walkthroughs, and not just the ones when we're doing formal observations, but put those particular times on your calendar. Your leadership team, particular times on your calendar. When are you meeting with your front office? When are you meeting with your bookkeeper? When do you know that you have your scheduled principals meetings? When are you meeting with your principal supervisor? All of those are chunks that you can just put on your calendar as placeholders, and then everything else you work around. I even had a chunk on my calendar of when I returned parent phone calls, when I met with parents. I had a particular time of day on a daily basis where I put in my calendar to do that. And if there were any parents that needed to meet with me, or if I had to return any parent phone calls during that particular time, that's when I did that. All right. So, hopefully by now as I'm talking, you're kind of jotting down your big rocks, your priorities, and thinking, does my calendar reflect that? So pull out your calendars as well. So I keep two calendars. I have my paper copy calendar, and this is very nice for me. And I have my digital calendar. So I do both. That works. That works for me. It just does. But you have to determine what really works for you. I particularly like a digital um, calendar. I still like the feel of writing down. So I keep my hard copy calendar really more so for myself. But for you as a new principal, have your digital calendar where you put everything in, and then you can share that with your front office or whomever the principal secretary is, so that they know what your schedule is for the day. You can print your calendar off for the day, give it to the front office. So if any parent calls, if anyone is looking for you, they know where you are. So if you getting into classrooms is a priority, is that on your calendar on a daily basis? Is your leadership team on your calendar? You're meeting with your core team, that's your assistant principals. Anyone that helps you specifically with um, instruction, are they there? For example, on this particular calendar here, if you look from the 1 to 2 o'clock time, administrative tasks, emails, reports, etc. Do you have a time on your calendar that you schedule yourself to actually do work during the school day? Because guess what? It can be done. And then the hack to that is you have a particular time, and and I think about when you have a lull in your day, when it's quiet, when you can say, okay, this might be a really good time for me to say, this is my power hour of when I'm actually going to work on some things during the day. Put that as a chunk on your calendar, and when you know that you have things that you have to do or submit, put on there, during my power hour of when I'm closing my door and doing work for an hour, I need to accomplish these two things. So you can begin to work on that. And then two things that I want to share with you specifically that's on this sample calendar that I really, really love. And sometimes as new principals, well, not sometimes, at least I can only speak for myself. I was guilty from the 8 to 8:30 morning reflection and planning. Look at 4:30 to 5 reflection and wrap up. All right. So much of our work as principals, and especially as a new principal, you need time to think and process. So much of our work is thinking work. So that 8 to 8:30, that morning reflection and planning, uh, what worked for me with my calendar was getting to school 30 minutes before, at least 30 minutes before everyone else. And that was a time for me to center myself, and have my reflection, really think about between the time that I left the previous night and by the time that I actually arrived at school, that I actually, mentally prepared myself for the day. And then at the very end of the day, the last 30 minutes before you leave out, kind of wrap up for the day, and leave try to leave the work at work. And I know a lot of times as a new principal that might be difficult in the beginning, and a strategy that I have for that is, if you must do anything at home, set a time for that as well. Eh, no longer than 1 hour of doing work at home, because again, our task, our job as principals is very cerebral. It's a lot of thinking work, which means you have to have time to rest your brain. Okay. So if you need time to rest your brain, schedule that and actually say, I'm going to schedule myself to sleep for 8 hours. It sounds crazy, but sometimes you have to do that. Okay. So here is your chart. Pull your calendar, your paper calendar, if you keep that. If you're strictly digital, great. Write down your priorities for the next 90 days. Or we'll say 45 days. How about that? For the next 45 to 90 days. What are your priorities for yourself, for your building? Write those down. Then make sure that your calendar begins to really reflect that. Okay. And bite size nugget number 2, from the time you walk into the building until the time you leave, begin to schedule all of your time. And I'm not saying, because I know things pop up and whatnot, they will, but in the instance where they don't, you have everything already scheduled. And then if something pops up, you handle it, then you get back to your schedule at hand. This is like the lesson plan for principals. That's what our calendars are for us. All right. All right. So this is Dr. Chara signing off. And I'm curious, of course, what does your calendar look like? What's working well with your calendarizing? What's not working so well? Let me know. I'm just curious. What is your calendarizing strategy? Just curious, because we all are different, so everything works differently for us. So just let me know. Send me a message, a private message, or comment below. So, and as I like to say, the best is yet to come. Signing off.